Snautra aure mazda Hashem vahu vahishtem asti ushtaste Ushtahamai yatashai vahishtai Hashem Baname ahura mazda. To think a good thought, to speak a good word, to do a good deed is righteousness. Happiness comes to those who live with the consciousness of righteousness. And with that sentiment, ladies and gentlemen, this is Meher Amalsad and welcome to Bahumata, a program designed to build oneness with the consciousness of righteousness in humanity. The goal is not to grow the plant but to plant the seed for each one of us to blossom with our own love, light, grace, joy and peace. So sit back, relax, and get ready for this very special journey to enlightenment. And as you do, please join me in giving a warm Zarathushtra welcome to our very own Zarathushtra neuroscientist from United Kingdom, Dr. Karishma Koka.
Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today on this very, very special program of Bahumata. Today we will pay respect to our guiding friend, Mohammed Soli P. Dastoor, whose attention to detail, whose kindness, and whose ability to respond when there was a call for help so quickly despite his busy schedule, I will forever respect and honor. We'll first have a short remembrance in honor of Mohammed Soli P. Dastoor from our Vada Dasturji Sahib, Vada Dasturji Khurshed Dastoor of Iransha, Udwada. As Mohammed Soli, or as he loved to be called, just Soli, so humbly, always wrote off in his emails, may the flame of fellowship, love, charity, and respect for all burn ever eternal in our hearts. Over to you, Vada Dasturji Sahib. Thank you.
First and foremost, we will all pray Sri Hashembou in the honor of dear Soli Kaka. Hashembou vahishtamasti ushtasti ushtamai Yat ashai vahishtai Hashem. Hashem vahu vahishtamasti ushtasti ushtamai Yat ashai vahishtai Hashem. Hashem vahu vahishtamasti ushtasti ushtamai Yat ashai vahishtai Hashem. Gurze kore vazayav in shnumeine aldav Pravesh Pereshav Nam Chesti Anushelavam Ravani Ervad Soli Ervad Pirocha Ay Kariyat Ba Ervad Soli Ervad Pirocha Ay Kariyat Ba. Good morning to all of you in the US, and good evening to those listening in our part of the world. It would have been Ervad Soli Dastoor to me, Soli Kaka, who would have been here today. But as fate would have it, it is I who stands here before you instead, to pay tribute to a legend in his own right. Soli Kaka has left for his heavenly journey, leaving behind a huge legacy. We will never see the likes of him again, and this I'm sure of. When I was approached to speak in his honor, a chill ran down my spine. One, because it was then that I actually accepted that he is no more, and that meant no more. And also because to summarize Soli Kaka is in itself no mean feat, and in 10 minutes, that's asking for the impossible. A man as gregarious as him, who resonated with exuberance, who spoke from the depths of his heart and lived life on his own terms, giving to the world much more than receiving. How is one to capture that in 10 minutes? However, given the fact that he was not in best of the health of late, and no matter how prepared I thought I was for this day, the news of his departure hurts very deeply. I tried to take a respite in a Hebrew proverb that goes to say not in grief, he is no more, but in thankfulness say that he was. That's when I resolved to believe Soli Kaka will never die, for he is going to be remembered for a long, long time. Though he spent most of his adult life outside his homeland, he never ever lost connection with his roots. He had an everlasting affiliation with his childhood. His adoration for his parents, his siblings, his hometown Tarapur, his school Kama Athona Institute, his teachers, his friends, his extended family, and for his Udvada was unflinching. What stood out was his inner drive to remain tightly connected to his roots. The life of the West did not dilute his love for his motherland. He carried with him all that he possibly could to the US and shared this wealth with his compatriots there. The wealth I speak about is our culture, our traditions, our way of life, our values, our ethics. In short, the wealth he carried with him to the US was our Parsi Panu, along with abundant relevant knowledge and insight. He did what he did with the unending support of his devoted wife, Joanne Kaki, by his side. She was his constant companion. He brought the old, the young, and the very young old and Chris together, and in doing so, he established a deep sense of community feeling and thus achieved the most important element of any religion, that is continuity. He became the central point where people, views, ideas all converged. From there emerged many a great beginning. One of them being the beginning of celebrating the Mukta days in honor of our departed souls for the first time in US. The other was the celebration of the Gambar festival. The celebration of the Gambars were an epitome of Parsi Panu in US. The meal was cooked and served by the Parsis who took part in the festivities. He would then pray upon the prepared meal, and then they all enjoyed the meal, laying stress on the significance of the Gambar. On my visits to the US, we would spend hours on end discussing the finer and more beautiful and wondrous concepts of Zoroastrian literature. From him, I learned to capture the hidden treasures of our timeless text and share them amongst the community. He was committed to his lifelong mission, that of spreading light through the art of gaining wisdom. He sought enlightenment to be able to emit its energy for all to absorb. And it fills me with pride to say that he did the most wondrous job of it. You will understand what I mean better if you have had the opportunity to hear him speak, or if you have read his weekly sermons. These sermons always held a fresh and inspiring touch to them. That was dear Soli Kaka. On his visits to India, he spent most of his time with his beloved brother Palanji Kaka. They were inseparable once he landed in Bombay. He would share his time between all nieces and nephews and would want to be surrounded by them all. On his itinerary would be a couple of day or overnight trips to pay homage to some historical places of religious importance. Most of us here in India have not taken the trouble to visit these sites. He wouldn't miss the opportunity to visit an Agyari or Atasparam on its Salgre if it fell during his stay in India, or attend and celebrate a Gambal if there were any. He would love to spend most of his holiday in Vada at Ervad Park and enjoy his morning session at Iransha Atasparam, praying for a long while, and then with his old-time buddies. He had stories to narrate and sermons to preach. There wasn't a dull moment around him. His presence would be punctuated with his infectious, loudy, throaty laughter, and knowingly or unknowingly, it would light all the faces in the vicinity. He showered one and all with respect, and I will never forget his call, "Chalo Bhaiji," his deep voice rumbling through the corridor when he was ready to leave for his next expedition. I feel very privileged and blessed to have his presence in our midst to grace the Nauchot and Nawar ceremony of my son Darayas. It is worth a mention that it was Soli Kaka who vaguely planted the idea of performing the Shenbaj in Udwada last year to help overcome the dastardly effects of the pandemic. Of one of his many charitable acts was a small structure that stands bang opposite the Iransha Atasparam building. He built this makan in memory of his beloved parents for the many boywalas who did not have a place to stay in Urwada while they were in service of Iransha. It was their home away from home. Many a boywala have had most of this abode and blessed Soli Kaka from within his heart. He was eagerly waiting to see the restored Iransha Atasparam building in all its glory. But time and tide wait for no man, and Soli Kaka is on his way. May he have a glimpse of it from the heavens above. No words can express my fondness for him, and no more words can express my grief at not having him just a phone call away. My heartfelt condolences to dear Joanne Kaki, his daughters Shirin and Anaita, and his dear grandchildren. May Dada Rauramas the grant you the strength to bear this loss. I would like him to be remembered by his own words. May the flame of fellowship, love, charity, and respect for all burn ever eternal in our hearts so we can do his work with humility, diligence, and eternal enthusiasm. In his service 24/7, Atha Zamyak Yata Afri Nahi. May it be so as we wish. Farewell, Soli Kaka. Chalo Bhaiji. Best Garot Manojo. Ravan Garot Manipat. Ravan Garot Manipat. Best one Garot Manipat.
Thank you, Vada Dasturji Sahib, for that moving honor to Mabad Soli P. Dastoor, whose last emailed to me, said, contact me 24/7, I'm here. Now, I'll hand over to Mr. Meher Amalsad to share a few words in honor of Mohammed Soli Dastoor. Baba, over to you.
Thank you. Shnautra aure mazdao Hashembou Prayer Ushtaste Ushtahamai Yatashari Vahishtai Hashem. Baname Ahura Mazda. A daughter was holding her father's hand as he was making the transition from temporal to eternal life. And at the very moment of his departure, she said, "My father has now become my angel." I think the same holds true for our Soli Bhai, because he was always focused on building angelic relationships with others. With that sentiment, I've had the distinctive privilege of knowing Ravancha Dr. Soli Dastoor for over 35 years as a wise and gentle soul with an amazing willingness to reach out to others. Most people see with their eyes and feel with their heart, but Soli could see with his heart, and we will now see him in the hearts of those who love him. In spite of the fact that he was facing some serious health challenges, he still had a very joyful and peaceful attitude around him. And I will always remember him for his kindness and graciousness towards educating others with the guiding philosophy of Zarathushtra. Our community and society has lost a scholar and a stalwart whose legacy of service remains precious and timeless. A scholar who was passionate about serving humanity with dignity and humility, and a stalwart whose prime purpose in life was focused on keeping us united as a community through our Zarathushtra faith. Soli has left a legacy of selfless service for our future generation to emulate with communal pride. Our hats off to him for his relentless dedication with conscientious intention of serving our community as well as humanity. May Ahura Mazda bless his divine soul with everlasting peace as he now resides in the realm of eternal life. Amen. With all my love and light to him and his family. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Meher Amalsad. Thank you so much for introducing us. And thank you for those very thoughtful words to encapsulate a lifetime of service and dedication to humanity and to the Zoroastrian community worldwide. Please, everybody, a few moments silence for this wonderfully great soul. Gratitude to his family for dedicated service and sharing him with the world. Thank you to his whole family for the sacrifices they have made by being the family of a respected Mabad Sahib who has served and left a legacy in teaching so that we can all learn. Thank you to the whole team that has helped share all the knowledge with the world. So our dear Soli Dastoor, or our dear Soli, as he loved to be called, would have been our first speaker today. And we've thought of him, and he will continue to live on and be our guiding friend for Bahumata. Thank you, Mohammed Soli. Our first speaker today is Ervad Zubin Dastoor. Then we will have our youngest speaker, Ervad Ushaan Turel, gratitude to him and his family. Then Dr. Negin Forouzesh, and then Mr. Tehmus Mistry. Ladies and gentlemen, with immense pleasure, I would like to introduce to you this outstanding, multifaceted Zarathushtra from Singapore, who has been actively involved in providing priestly and communal services, as well as in accomplishing laudable achievements in his professional endeavors. Ervad Zubin Dastoor is a dedicated and knowledgeable Mohammed in Singapore with a deep passion for our Zarathushtra religion, prayers, traditions, and customs. He serves as the Managing Director of Field Engineering International with UL, a company involved in creating standards for product safety. Ervad Zubin is responsible for the UL Field Engineering business globally, outside of North America, and is currently based in Singapore. He has 30 years of experience in manufacturing, sales, marketing, standards development, certification, and operations, and has worked at the company for 16 years. And prior to that, running Field Engineering International, he was the Global Business Manager for HVAC&R appliances and lighting business. Ervad Zubin also worked with the Air Conditioning and Refrigeration Institute in Arlington, Virginia, USA, as its Director of Certification Programs, and with the Hussmann Corporation as a Sales Engineer and Applications Engineer in Montreal, in Quebec, Canada. Ervad Zubin graduated from the Executive Leadership MBA program with Yale University of Management, as well as the University of Texas in Dallas, with an MBA in International Business. He has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from McGill University, Montreal, Canada. While in Montreal, Washington, DC, and now in Singapore, Ervad Zubin has been involved with the Zoroastrian community and has been an active community priest. From 2015 to 2019, Ervad Zubin was also a council member of the Singapore Interreligious Organization and was involved with many religious prayers representing the Zoroastrian community of Singapore. He is married to Jasmine for the last 24 years. He's a Nawar and Martab, and both their sons, Jehan and Zain, are also ordained Nawars. With these laudable endeavors, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm Zarathushtra welcome to our very own Mohammed Ervad Zubin Dastoor from Singapore. And thank you to Mr. Meher Amalsad for writing our introductions. Over to you, Mohammed Sahib.
So at the onset, I would like to state that although I am a priest and I have an understanding of our religion and its philosophy, I'm not a scholar, nor do I profess to be one. Ushtavaiti Gata and Yasnaha 8 and 12 for me is a confession of faith. It teaches us on how we must treat others, how we must follow a righteous path, and it's our duty to also teach others about the righteous path. Allow me to explain how I see this translating into our daily lives and more so into mine. For me as a Zoroastrian, I feel a strong affinity to the central tenets of Zoroastrianism, namely good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. These have been my core beliefs and values and provided a foundation and purpose for me in life. I would like to share how I feel these core beliefs have played a key role in both my personal and professional life, and how for me it marks Zarathustra's legacy and brings the Ushtavaiti Gata and the Yasna to life. Interestingly, through my career, through progressively greater and greater leadership roles, I've often gone through numerous training and evaluations similar to what most of you in business may have also. Interestingly, one key attribute has always appeared on almost all my evaluations, and that is belief. A very strong sense of belief keeps me grounded and allows me to make decisions that are based on core values of right and wrong, true or false, good or bad. They form my moral compass and help me to do what is morally and ethically right. In all my decisions, I fall back on my principles to guide me. And these principles are deeply rooted in Zoroastrianism and our theology to follow the path of Asho. I look for what is correct and right for not only me, but the team and the people that I lead, so that I can serve them in the best way possible. There's always that inner voice that guides me, asking the question, is this good? Will this do good? Will good come from this decision or action? I never doubt my decisions when they are rooted and based on my core principles. I believe that when we struggle to make decisions, it's because our actions do not sit well or align with our core beliefs. I do want to state that for me, the term Asho is more than just the right path or the right decision. I believe that in Zoroastrianism, our gift of mind, Medio, is the gift Hawara Mazda has given all of us. This is highlighted in Ushtavaiti Gata. We must see what is right. We must process what is around us and make a conscious decision on what is the right action to then follow. More than this, we must act when we see that which is wrong. Our actions must match with what we think and we speak. As a Zoroastrian, I would say I tend to be more liberal in my views on Zoroastrianism, yet I closely adhere to the philosophy and theology of our teachings. To me, this is fundamental. The actual teachings of our prophet and religion and how we must live our lives and treat each other are of utmost importance as opposed to rituals, which are less important to me. As a priest, I personally seek to connect with the prayers, the words I pray, more than the rituals. Although there are many rituals that when you actually know and understand the reason why they are performed, add far more meaning and context to the ceremony. As a young boy, when I was first ordained and performed various ceremonies, I struggled to connect with the prayers and our ceremonies. I grew up in North America and was one of the first Zoroastrian priests from North America to be ordained. So I grew up with a slightly different mindset as compared to the other adult priests who I prayed with. When I prayed with senior priests, most of the time, they themselves did not know what the prayer signified. And it bothered me that they could not answer my questions. Prayers were also recited at such a fast speed that you could not hear the individual words, and I questioned, is this what praying is? I came to a conclusion that in order for me to connect with my belief, I needed to understand more, and I needed to pray in such a way that each and every word carried its weight and could be heard clearly. This allowed me to feel that I was giving justice to the actual prayer and giving meaning to the person or people for whom I was praying, and thus serving them better and unconditionally. Zoroastrianism and its teachings are centered on freedom of thought. I come to my original statement about Medio, the mind. We have all been given the gift to think freely and to make our own decisions and be personally responsible for our actions. It's our inner self that weighs good and bad. We must then take personal responsibility and accountability for our actions. For me, this is the dualism that exists in our religion and what makes our religion so far advanced for its time when it was first introduced to humankind. Let's remember that at the time of Zarathustra, humankind was operating in a tribal manner. It was the tribe that decided what to do. Thus, Zarathustra does not tell us to do this or not to do that. He preaches that everyone must decide for themselves if what they are doing is correct and is the right thing to do. It is also your choice on how you want to best serve your family, your community, and our religion. The words that we all live by each day guide us, Humata, Hukta, Huvarashta. If we are all to follow these three simple yet extremely powerful tenets, we will be doing honor to the legacy of Zarathustra. If we are all on the same path, we will achieve Asho. Over the last 40 years, I've served as a priest in Montreal, in the Northern Virginia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. area, as well as now for the last 16 years in Singapore. There are times of need when the community calls upon its priests, and when I feel deeply that it's our duty to serve and to provide comfort through prayer. There are ceremonies that make us feel happy and blessed, Jushans, Naujots, weddings. And there are those where we have sorrow, and through our prayer, we seek comfort. Without doubt, the 4-day funeral prayers are probably the most important and meaningful to be performed so as to provide the family with the peace that their loved one has traversed from the physical to the spiritual world. These are the times that I feel we serve unconditionally. We perform our duty unconditionally, and we uphold the legacy of our religion and its ancient prayers. The other aspect of our religion that brings meaning to me as compared to other religions is that we see everyone and everything as being fundamentally good and pure. It is not that we are born bad and need to be rehabilitated or reconditioned through our prayer. We are all interestingly good and pure. By keeping on the path of Asho, we must see what is good. We must see what is not good. And through our actions, we must correct what is not just, acting always for good. In this manner, we all serve unconditionally, promulgating the legacy of our prophet and the teaching of Ahura Mazda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammad. It's really very nice to hear your thoughts, both scientific, technical, and practical. There have been questions whether you're Dolly Dastur's son, and I confirm to the audience that yes, indeed. This is the service that runs through the family, and we thank your parents as well. But we'll continue with our youngest Mobbed, Ervad Ushaan Turel. Let me just spotlight Ervad Ushaan as lovely. Yazdi, thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Sorry.
I'll introduce you. I'm just giving Yazdi a small break so that when he edits, it comes in crisp. Okay, start now. So welcome everybody to the first time the youngest Mobbed around the world is addressing a global community such as Bahumata. And this is Ervad Ushaan Turel. I express my deep gratitude to his family for their dedicated years of service to help train a Mobbed Sahib and share him with the world today. And thank you to Mr. Meher Amalsad for making this possible. Today we have the distinctive honor of featuring the youngest youth Mobbed on our Zoroastrian Bahumata program to date, who is setting a classic example of following his father's footsteps in Hong Kong. This amazing young Mobbed that I'm about to introduce has been remarkably involved in teaching English at a school for the blind in India with the help of his mother as an interpreter, given his limited Hindi. Ervad Ushaan Turel is a 17-year-old, dynamic, passionate, and compassionate Mobbed who is presently studying at an international school in Hong Kong. His hobbies are playing rugby, reading, and playing the piano. And with a deep passion for success, recently he's been involved in preparing university applications to pursue higher studies in biochemistry at a world-class university in either the United Kingdom or the United States, for which we wish him the very best in his career endeavors. He is a very special young person because he views himself as a proud Zoroastrian Mobbed, having completed both his Nawar and Martab rituals, and balances this with his academic capabilities, with dedication. He does take his priestly duties very seriously and participates actively in Jushans, as well as in other prayer ceremonies, both at home and also at the Zoroastrian house in Hong Kong. He was also involved in performing the Navjot ceremony of his brother and other cousins. He truly values honesty, commitment to excellence, and being a good person, as well as staying happy. With those integral attributes of a Zarathushti, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm Zarathushti welcome to this young, dynamic, passionate, and compassionate young Zarathushti Mabed from Hong Kong, our very own Ervad Ushaan Turel, and naman to his parents and his grandparents and his whole family for all his successes.
Thank you for the opportunity to present here. Today, I'd like to talk about serving unconditionally and what that means to me. I have observed that people often pray during times of problems. As a young Zarathushti, my problems might not be seen as severe as those faced in adulthood. I have my exams coming up, and that's about as challenging as my problems will get. However, throughout my whole life, I've always believed in God and that He is guiding me through it and taking care of my problems one at a time. That belief started when I was as young as 5 years old, when my parents would always ask me to pray to God to make sure everything was fine, we are safe, healthy, and happy. Every time we went out for a meal, my father would always say, "Thank Dadaji." This instilled my belief in this invisible power who, although I couldn't see, I could feel his presence guiding me. Even when things were not going my way, I might have felt sad for whatever reason, I could still take comfort in the knowledge of the fact that this supreme being was guiding me. This is what serving unconditionally means to me. Serving unconditionally doesn't mean following blindly in the expectation that everything will go your way, because that is not how life works. Instead, it means to trust that there is a greater power guiding you, and most importantly, cares for you and your well-being. Even though times may be difficult right now, especially because of COVID-19, many families might be struggling, but my message to you is to keep praying to God because there is light at the end of the tunnel. As a Zarathushti, many of you will be familiar with the 3 sacred values, Humata, Hukta, Hurishta, which literally translates to good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. When things are going great, it's very easy to have positive thoughts in your mind and to help and inspire others. However, when times get tough, that is when your faith in God will be tested. It won't be easy to keep a positive attitude. There are times myself when I feel like things are spiraling out of control, and that is when this strong faith holds me in good stead. It gives me a source of peace and control, and more importantly, a purpose. By praying to a power greater than myself, it helps me put all my problems into perspective as well as calming my mind. So serving unconditionally is not as one-sided as many might think. You also get mental strength and clarity from doing it. Finally, I think that performing good deeds would be the most important, as you're not only serving yourself or God, but you are serving others as well. An example would be when I went on my annual holiday to India to spend time with my relatives. One of the days I accompanied my grandmother to a blind school she regularly visits and felt touched by the children's warmth and receptivity. I wanted to give something back to these children, so I started teaching English, which I found very rewarding. The love and affection they provided was the highlight of my holidays, and I always looked forward to going there. Serving unconditionally doesn't just apply to God, but also applies to helping others in need without expecting anything in return. I believe that God is there in your life to give you a purpose, and when all else seems bleak, and by doing the basics, like the kasti and your prayers, being nice to others, and most importantly yourself, all of these things will make you a better person. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for that beautiful introduction to the very basic tenets of the Zarathushti Daina, the Zarathushti conscience. Thank you, Ervad Ushaan Turel, and thank you
for having me.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. and Professor Negin Forouzesh, who's a PhD, and she represents both Iran and the USA. This amazing, beautiful, and smart young lady I'm about to introduce has a stellar track record of reaching out to our community as well as to humanity in Iran and the United States. As one of the top students from Iran, her research interests in bioinformatics and computational molecular biology, with applications in drug discovery, which address critical challenges related to life science and human health, is absolutely wonderful. Her specific interest is in computational study of proteins, the molecular machines that make life possible, something absolutely integral to the progress of science, especially in the zeitgeist of today's changing times. Dr. Negin Forouzesh is a tenure-track assistant professor in computer science in the California State University in Los Angeles, where she teaches several courses at undergraduate and graduate level. It's related to design and the analysis of algorithms, data structures, and their applications. She received her PhD in computer science from Virginia Tech in 2020, where she was selected as the Graduate Student of the Year by the Virginia Tech State School. Bravo! She's an active member of the Iran Society at Virginia Tech and served as its treasurer in 2017 and 18, and spearheaded several campus events to showcase the bounty of Persian festivals, including the Mehrangan and Nowroz celebrations. During the productive years of postgraduate studies, Negin has received several awards and scholarships due to exemplary academic achievements and social activities, including the 25th anniversary Fazana Endowed Scholarship for Excellence in 2018, the Khatibi Foundation Scholarship in 2018, and the Vakshuri Scholarship in 2015. Dr. Negin Forouzesh was officially invited by the organizers of the 2019 7th World Zoroastrian Youth Congress in Los Angeles, California, to serve as one of the panelists for a special session titled Global Stories: How Women Will Modernize the World's Oldest Religion. She officially represented the Zoroastrian Association of Metropolitan Washington, Inc. at this monumental Global Youth Congress. Thank you, Negin. Negin has been active in the Zoroastrian Student Association, also known as Qanun, in her home country, Iran, and has served as the chair of the table tennis committee at the National Zoroastrian Olympics, called the Jame Janbakhteghan, in 2019, and the chair of the National Avasta and Gatha Festival, called Matra, in 2014. She was also an active participant at the 2011 5th World Zoroastrian Youth Congress in Vancouver, Canada. She's a member of several professional communities, including the Association for Computing and Machinery, the American Chemical Association, and others. She's an advocate for women in computing in several organizations. Dr. Forouzesh truly believes in community power and thinks that what connects all Zoroastrians worldwide as a united society is our prophet Asho Zarathushtra. And as a small but strong community, we must encourage each other to learn from his wisdom and implement his teachings in our daily lives. And as she proudly says, let us all commit to do that for the benefit of our future generation. With that promising sentiment, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm Zarathushti welcome to this wise and promising young lady representing Iran and the United States, Dr. Negin Forouzesh.
Hello, my dear Zarathushti fellows from around the world. Thank you very much for the kind words and very great introduction. It's my pleasure to serve as one of the panelists of today's Bahumata lecture series. Today, I would like to share with you some of my personal experiences during the community service in the past years. And I would like to emphasize on what we learn during such services. You know, most of the times when we talk about social and community service, it is thought that the person who is in service is the only one who is, giving something to the community, or that person is the only one who is sacrificing, which is somehow true. But what is underestimated is what we gain and what we learn during the service. And today I would like to share with you 3 of the most important things that I have learned during the past years of service with you. And I hope that you could all relate to that and finally understand that through the service, we all grow and become a better person. The first lesson and the first soft skill that I believe we all learn during community service is time management. you know, here and there, when you talk about community service with your friends and relatives, many of them believe that this is something very valuable, but they complain and say, you know what, I don't have time for this. I'm a busy person. And at the same time, you look at the people who are very active in our community, who are organizers of very big events, and you see that many of them are very successful in their jobs, and they also have their families. And then the big question here for you would be, is it really about having or not having time, or is it about how you manage your time? And I personally believe that the answer is the second one. What I have learned during the past years of service is that you can thrive in different aspects of your life if you manage your time efficiently. And once you consider the service to our community as one of your highest priorities, then you'll definitely find some time to devote it. The second skill that I have learned during the past years is about teamwork. I would like to make an example. The 7th World Zoroastrian Youth Congress that was held 2 years ago in Los Angeles, and I believe that was one of the very last events that we could meet each other in person before pandemic. You know, in that Congress, there were hundreds of participants and organizers. And yes, there was the chair of the Congress, Pashan Khosravi, and the board members. But I think we all believe and we all understand that in addition to the board members, there were many other individuals who were involved in the organization of that event. Okay, so through community service and through organizing different events, we get to work with people from different backgrounds, different countries, and different personalities. And I think that's really valuable, because later when you enter college and you want to work on projects with your teammates, when you go for an internship and you want to work with your supervisor, and when you graduate and you want to enter the job market, you have to work with your colleagues on different projects and then meet deadlines. These are all different examples of teamwork. And if you have been involved in such experiences during the social service, you already have known how to deal with it. Okay, so I believe that teamwork is another very valuable soft skill that we all learn through community service. And finally, I would like to emphasize on the value of network and expanding the network of people in our community. Again, as an example, I would like to talk about my experience of talking to a young lady in the World Zoroastrian Youth Congress 2 years ago. It was a very brief conversation, maybe less than 10 minutes. I got to know her and where she works. And a few months later, when I was in the job market and was looking for a job, I contacted her and said, I've seen an opening in your company, and I was wondering if you could recommend me for that job. And she didn't hesitate to say yes. And that was very valuable for me. Although I didn't end up going there, I decided to go for another job, but that was very precious for me. I believe that our community is made of very supportive, very successful and encouraging individuals. And we all understand that we are responsible for lifting up our community. Through social and community service, you'll get to know these people and you'll get to expand your network. And I think that's another very valuable thing that you get to learn from community services. With that, I would like to conclude my conversation. I hope that I could convey my message and you all understand that through community service, we all learn something. And you can also think about your experiences and what you can add to this list. And with that, I would like to thank the Bahumata board member, especially Mr. Meher Amalsad, for having me here. Thank you very much, and I'll take questions at the end.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. With that thought, would please everybody start filling in the chat box as we come to our last speaker of the day. Somebody who stayed up all night to be with us, and somebody whose dedication is simply tremendous. Mr. Tehmus Mistry. This veteran Zarathushtra leader from New Zealand has dedicated his life to humanitarian service to the community and others for over 30 years. It's now 4 o'clock in the morning, I think, in New Zealand, and he's been up with us for the last so long. And in fact, I was going to ask him to speak before Mabed Dastoor, and very graciously he said, Mabed Zubin first. Thank you. He's been an active member of the Zoroastrian community in New Zealand, involved in the Zoroastrian Association of New Zealand since its very inception in 1995, serving both as a community member and as its president. Tehmus is also involved as a trustee of the Zoroastrian Community Trust of New Zealand since its establishment in 2007. Its pristine goal is to establish a community center with an Atesh Dadga in Auckland. What a fabulous and laudable initiative. Bravo. Tehmus was born in India, but was also raised in Malaysia and Singapore. He pursued his university studies in the United Kingdom and United States in the field of computer science, and in 1990 migrated to New Zealand. Over the years, he has worked as a lecturer in computer science, a project program manager, service delivery manager, as well as a chief executive. His expertise is in business process improvement, and he has worked in numerous sector industries, including the financial services and the local government. Over the last decade, Mr. Tehmus Mistry has specialized in the payments sector and currently oversees several companies as chief executive officer and director. 2 of those companies provide payment acceptance services to New Zealand and businesses, and the other 2 build software solutions for businesses. He's an ardent believer that the Zoroastrian religion will thrive as the limited ethnicity of its current followers changes to include other ethnicities. Tehmus believes that this inevitably should be embraced by the Parsi Zoroastrian community, as in doing so, we will not only be carrying on what Zarathushtra started, but more importantly, create a single community of followers of the Zoroastrian religion, instead of many communities of Zoroastrians based solely on ethnicity. So that's a very personal view. I respect all different views of our audience and our speakers. And it is, as Zarathushtra said, our own mind with which we approach the world. And with that thought from Asho Zarathushtra, please join me in giving a warm Zarathushti welcome to our very own, very committed, dedicated, and prominent Zarathushti leader from New Zealand, Mr. Tehmus Mistry. Thank you for all your dedication, Tehmus.
Thank you, Karishma. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the people who have tuned in to listen. I was asked to talk today about prayers, their impact, and how it sort of affected me personally in my commitment to all the activities I've been involved with our Zoroastrian community here in New Zealand. Like many people out there, I'm no priest. My prayers were just the basic ones I was brought up with. But there are a few of them which we all pray on a daily basis, which has a big impact to us. The one that has played a very important one in my life is one of the simplest, but one of the most powerful prayers in my opinion, and that is the Hashembou Prayer. Because its meaning to me is very simple: truth for the sake of truth, or righteousness for the sake of righteousness. And that is being sort of very powerful in what we try to achieve in communities and activities because we have diverse views in our community about different aspects. And sometimes it just boils down to the simple principles that, are we doing the right thing for the right reason? Or are we doing it for other reasons? And this becomes very important in all the activities we do, not only in our community, but in my personal life as well, when it comes to business, where I deal with so many different people at different levels. And sometimes you've got to make very important decisions which affect people's lives. And sometimes it comes down to that very thing, that the decision am I making, is it the right one? And am I making it for the right reason? Not so that we can make more money in our company, or not so that we can do something that affects different people in our community. And I relate this back to when our associations were being formed about 28 years ago. As everybody knows, in North America and everywhere, there was a lot of controversy going around in terms of who can be members of association and who cannot be members of associations based on whether they're married non-Zarathushtis and so forth. In those days, I'm talking about 30 years ago, which was a very big thing then, I think it boiled down to the very simple principle that, are we making the right decision when we talk about memberships of people who could join our associations? Many people felt, that if somebody had married outside the religion or something, they shouldn't be treated as Zarathushtis anymore and so forth. And for our association, it was a very important principle where we said, no one gives us the right to excommunicate someone based on their marriage or anything like that. And that there were many people in our community who felt that was wrong. And there were many people who felt that was right, but many people were just silent. And some people had to speak up, and maybe it was me. And it created a lot of controversy. But that was the most important thing, because every time I told people the same old thing, we say our prayers every day, we do that, are we applying those actions in our daily life? Righteousness for the sake of righteousness. Am I doing the right thing by making these decisions? So I'm just relating this from a social perspective in our community today. A lot has changed. The generations now have a totally different perspective on things. And so all those issues which were really highlighted in the 80s and 90s have sort of dwindled away. And that's really good. But I think that's the importance of all the people, which I even tell today, that whatever we do for a community, let's do it for the right reasons. Let's not do it so that, we create more funds or we do something that impacts a certain group of people. Let's do it because it's the right thing to do, because that is what Zarathustra's message was all about in our daily lives, doing the right thing. And don't want to speak anymore because I think we've got a limited time of 5 minutes, but I've said my piece to say this was the guiding principle that I believe we all should follow when we go through our lives, whether it is in the community activities we do among Zoroastrians or in our business life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tehmus. With that
You're
sentence,
welcome.
I'd like to thank Mr. Meher Amalsad for arranging all the speakers, writing all the introductions. Please may I request each one of you to start filling the chat box with your questions and your thoughts to share. Bahumata is a dialogue. Dialogue is, in Asho Zarathustra's sense, a combination of questioning, developing the mind, and sharing education and your thoughts with everyone. So the Bahumata program is developed to conserve and share the knowledge in the prayers, principles, and practice of the Zarathushti Daina, to honor our priests and knowledgeable elders, and build a bridge of communication between the elders and the youth, so that empowerment, knowledge, and leadership can bring about the good of all, including the earth. We had Earth Day yesterday, and all in the universe. With good thoughts, we can grow good fellowship, world peace, happiness, and prosperity for all. So I give gratitude to my grandfather, Ervad Noshirvanji Pestanji Pantaki, and his father, Ervad Pestanji Noshirvanji Pantaki, our guiding light, Mabed Meherban Firuzgari, who addressed Mabed Soli P. Dastur's life in his funeral prayer, which took place in California. So I suggest when that recording comes out, we all listen to it. Our guiding friend, Mabed Soli P. Dastur, Ravan Shad Mabed Soli Dastur, my mentor and facilitator, Mr. Meher Amalsad, Mr. Noshid Adrawala, whose support has helped, our Yazdi Tatra for support and technology, Mr. Rohinton Munshi for inspiration, and also express my gratitude not just to the Zoroastrian Trust Funds of Europe, but all such communities around the world, which welcome people and make them feel at home, including our president, Mr. Debu, our past president, Mr. Dalal, who's on this call, and our Mabed Sahibs who serve unconditionally like all the other Mabed Sahibs around the world, Ervad Vada, Madan, Unwala, Writer, Bhedwar, and Wajiftar. For encouragement to Mr. Darais Potel and the family of Dr. Feroz and Mrs. Kerman Munshi, and gratitude to all Ashavans, including my parents and the families of all our speakers and those on this program and around the world. Gratitude to all our speakers, gratitude to Vada Dasturji, Khurshed Dastoor for taking time out. And if we put everything we've heard today in the context of the Yasnaha 28.1 as the chat box fills up, it clearly says, now I pray with hands uplifted, or as some people say, with hands to uplift. So if anybody would like to comment on that also, which is the very first line of the Gathas. Okay, to stop sharing now, after I see the chat box filling up, and take all your questions.
Speak louder.
Okay, so our questions for the day.
Speak louder.
As you can hear my mommy telling me to speak louder. All right. Let's start from the very beginning. We have a comment from Mr. Meheryar Rivetna. Yes, please feel free to share when you're ready. Just lift your hand and Yazdi will unmute you. Mr. Yazdi Tantra says recordings of Mabed Soli's Zoroastrian teleclass, the website is given. Please take a look at that. Dina is here, Dina McIntyre. If you've got anything to say, please put your hand up. I'm sure you've got something to share with us. Mr. Meheryar Rivetna has been spotlighted. Yes, Mr. Rivetna.
Thank you, Karishma. All four speakers were just wonderful. Really impressed by their knowledge and their understanding of the religion. I just want to echo a few things that all four have said in one form or another, that to serve God is to serve humankind. You serve God when you serve humankind. I think that's very critical and it's very basic. The other thing was I wanted to share something with you, with the audience. Two quotes from Dastoor, if I can get it, okay. Rastamji, Idilji, Dastoor Sanjana. So what does it say about prayer? We say prayer, what is prayer? Prayer basically is to either ask a higher power for some supplication, is either for thanksgiving, confession of some mistakes we may have made, or just to be thankful. So he says, and essentially prayer is we pray when we want something, good health, prosperity, what have you. So he says, as he must ask of Havra Mazda whatever he needs, that is a supplicant, so he must labor for all that he asks. Prayer is an action. You can't just sit in a corner and pray for something and hope to expect to get it. It doesn't work that way. You have to make the effort to achieve and to get what you want. So that's the essence of prayer. The other thing he says is sometimes we pray, we sit in a corner and pray, oh, I prayed to God and now God will grant me my wishes. It doesn't work that way. He says, the body of us, this is again Rastamji, Edalji, Dastoor Sanjana. He says, the body of a sacred text is the sum of our duties and the means of fulfilling them. The reading of them invigorates the mind with prudential instructions and gives it incitement to work for that holy rectitude and for that blessed state which is acceptable to God and most desirable for man. So prayer really, the prayer the words that we pray, they're really instructions how we must conduct ourselves in society with our fellow human beings. So, and these all four young speakers said that in one form or another, and I totally agree with them. And so do actually the conservative priests. Rustamji, ladies and gentlemen, was a very conservative priest. And to hear these young people say something that has been held for a long time was very commendable. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivetna. Next, I'd like to turn the mic over to our very erudite Dina McIntyre, who wants to ask Tehmus a question.
I just wanted to ask Tehmus how his views have affected his New Zealand community.
Well, history has been written where we formed this association, and you can see on top the virtual, that's our association's name, Zoroastrian Association of New Zealand. We stood steadfast and allowed any Zarathushtra who had been officiated into the religion to be a member. And there was a group of people who did not believe in that and said, no, we want one which only allows people who have been initiated into the religion and have not married outside. So in the early days, we landed up with two associations. One which was open and accepting of all Zarathustris, another one which says, no, you are a second-class Zarathustri if you've married outside. So it did affect the community in a big way. It hurt the community a lot because as migration started coming into New Zealand, many people were confused. Oh, why are there two associations? What's the difference? Which one do I join? Oh, my friend is in this one, so maybe I should join this one. Nobody really cared about some of the underlying principles. But time is a good healer and teacher. And Zans has stood the test of time. The other association has slowly faded away. Lack of membership, lack of the people who started the association, their progeny married outside. So all the principles they stood for went out the window. So all these things led to where the association stand today, where there's really one, but because there was this sort of split early on, a lot of people chose not to join and say, oh, I'll just be neutral, I won't join anything, and I'll go where I want to. And so that's where it is at, Dinah, to give you an idea. And I think when you were here a few years ago, you might have experienced that yourself, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I think your view is what will take our religion into the future, because the tribal mentality was a survival mechanism. We needed it to survive the persecution and the hard times that our forefathers went through. But excluding people from the religion really did not happen, or refusing people admittance to the religion really did not happen until after the Arab invasion of Iran. So now we live in a free society, relatively, everything's relative. And I think it is time to go back to Zarathustra's teachings, because that's what will take us into the future, but more important, because that is the right thing to do. It's the true thing to do. So I really respect you. I wish my kids could have been raised in your community, but thank you.
Thank you very much, Dina. Thank you very much, Mr. Mistry, for that true sense of what Bahumata stands for, to have a dialogue, to have a discussion, and to share your thoughts with the deepest respect for everybody listening, their thoughts, the thoughts of Asho Zarathushtra, if we can guess them in the Gathas and read them in the Gathas. We would also like to request Mr. Umrigar, I think, who wants to speak. We've got a question from Roshan and Rohinton Rivetna. Please go ahead, Mr. and Mrs. Rivetna.
Actually, we have just a small comment to Maria Rivetna's very profound comments. And and not because he is distantly related to us, he is our cousin, but I would like to say that Maria has done a lot of research, and he was very humble during his few comments that he did not promote his new book. So, can you see the book in the picture? So I would like to give a little plug to Maria's new book. And it's very, very insightful. He has done a lot of work on it. And he was very humble and did not say anything about it while he commented. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that share. It's a lovely book. Very grateful to him for taking so many years to do the research and write. And thank you to all the writers around the world, the young and the old, who shared their thoughts with us. Dina McIntyre has a website. Lots of other people have done work that shares that knowledge. And of course, our Morbid Soli P. Dastoor has done a phenomenal amount of work. So thank you to all of you. Our next share is from Mr. Ruzbe Umrigar, please. Thank you. Okay.
Hi, Dee. This is Roshan.
All right, we will just wait.
Thank you for unmuting. I would like to. This is a CoStar Foundation course. Means there are so many stalwarts and educated people with scholarly approach towards the whole subject coming in, and I think we should all be connected, because a forum with just half an hour or 1 hour or 2 hours is not enough, for people with different thought processes and dialects to connect. And that's why we are connecting on a regular basis, thankfully. I saw your clipping in the Parsi Times, which comes online, and fortunately for me, and I connected today, and I have connected earlier as well. Thank you guys for doing this. Approach that many of the stalwarts are coming up with, Mr. Mistry, Tehmus Mistry, and so this is the first time I've heard of it, by the way. So I would love to connect with each and every one on a separate level, because I don't think the talk of this era would go on and on in terms of certain things. I would love to as far as conversions are concerned, to put the address the elephant in the room. Okay, I think we have converted before the Parsi exodus, or rather, coming from Iran so many years back. Before that, didn't the Zoroastrian community convert when they took over the land, and during Cyrus the Great's time and all that? So should there be a problem today? After coming to India, there seems to be more of a problem. It's just a question. Since there are so many scholars, I thought I'll just address it. Maybe they can address it better.
Thank you very much, Mr. Umrigar, for your question. In Bahumata, we acknowledge, I certainly acknowledge, as a lot of other people do around the world, that this is a very serious issue. And we defer, I completely defer to our leaders, the priests, and our community leaders around the world to do, as Asho Zarathushtra said to us in the Gathas, what the Ratus think are the best. So the community leaders know what is best for their communities. Our priests and our scholars and our very respected Morbid Sahibs and Ervad Sahibs know what is best for us as a Zoroastrian community around the world. And I leave it to them. I get this question quite often, so thank you for giving me the chance to address this. This is a matter for our Morbid Sahibs and our Ervad Sahibs and our knowledgeable leaders to deal with. If you'd like to connect with them, I think the easiest is to leave your phone number in the chat box for them to pick up, or your email, so that they will choose Because as Asho Zarathushtra said in the 51.5 verse of the Gathas, Vispata peresas, ashachitacha, gam vidat, questioning all matters for the sake of asha, righteousness, for the progress of the community. So he has qualified it. That needs to be for the progress and the good of all. So this is absolutely something for our respected Mohabbat Sahibs and Ervads and leaders to deal with. So I'm not going to give anyone else an opportunity right now unless they offer in the chat box to address your question. It's their choice. We have a comment from Pilu Turel. I think that was the lady's name. Pilu Aga. Are you here still, Miss Pilu Aga? Pilu was also my granny's name. It's a lovely name. Then there is Farida. Meru Turel. She says, thank you so much to the organizers. Yes, go ahead, Ms. Aga.
Thank you so much for giving me the chance. And thank you so much for the comment made by Tehmus that, yes, we must do the right thing. And he felt that the right thing was to allow people. And thank you for your comment that let us leave it to the Ervad, the Mohabbets who know the best. And your little comment that the Gathas say for the progress of the community. So I do hope the elders will not take the right to remove someone from the religion who's already there, who's already practicing, who's already doing good words, good thoughts, good deeds, who's already following the right path. Why should one remove it? Because that is not for the progress of the community. So I end this with your following that the elders will take the decision. And what you quoted so nicely is that it should the right decision for the right progress of the community. Our community is doing so well, and so many Jasans from the ZAC and the ZANZ and by you, dear. And I thank you once again for the organizers. I attend every single one of them, and I'm so appreciative. Thank you for the good work done. God bless you all. Thank you, dear. Our prayers with all of you. And we work to do the prayers. We run a company, Gold Seal, and we always try to do the right thing for our 800 employees. We have only a few Parsi employees. All are non-Parsi, but we do the right thing for them. And God looks after our company. As much as you sow, that's so how you will reap, which is Zarathustra or any other religion. God bless my fellow Zarathustris.
Thank you so much, Pilu Auntie, because as you said, there is so much commonality in all the communities around the world. All the faiths have so much beauty in them that is also in the Asho Zarathushtra's Gathas and in the various prayers that are so practical and applicable to guide our everyday life, our entrepreneurial activities, our relationships with our families. Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Rashida Todiwala says, I wish to thank Ervad Zubin and his wife Jasmine. Ervad Sahib Zubin, it's for you, for their kind and selfless service rendered to my family. Rashida Auntie, are you here? Would you like to say it? By traveling all the way from Singapore to Malaysia to perform the funerary rites for my mother at the time of her passing a few years ago. A true Zoroastrian in every sense of the word. Negin, you've got a comment for Fayaz. Please unmute yourself if you'd like. Ketayu Kapadia Auntie has a comment for Zubin. Dear Zubin, Ketayun Auntie, please feel free to come up. Ketayun Kapadia. So Farida, Ketayun Kapadia, just raise your hand so that Yazdi can find you. Yes, Auntie, we'll wait till you can unmute yourself. And thank you for your selfless service to the community as well. We see you on various Zoom sessions around the world.
I think I'm unmuted. Now I would like to thank Ushaan and Zubin and everybody on this call. They have sent us valuable messages, and it's very important that all of us participate and listen to these youngsters who are coming out and telling us what to do and how to do it. And Karishma, you, Meher, Yazdi, and all of you, thank you for organizing these sessions. And thank you to Dasturji, Khurshed Dastoor for his moving eulogy to Soli Dastoor, Ervad Soli Dastoor this morning. It started off the session very well. And I look forward to these sessions, and also to Tehmus Mistry and our friends from Australia and New Zealand who are on this call today. Thank you all for participating. And Ushaan, we look forward to seeing you and Zubin and others in all the various things we are doing. And all of you who are there, I'll put in my plug for the World Zoroastrian Congress in July 2022. We look forward to all of you participating and coming to New York in a big way so that we can continue with our dialogue on Zoroastrianism in the future. Thank you, Karishma.
Thank you very much, Auntie. Over to Mr.
Yeah, can you hear me well, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I see a list of all the Zoroastrian associations in North America. How about we name them, say like Zoroastrian Association of Alberta and Friends, so that we in the directory of these associations have friends listed, so that we can communicate with them rather than they have to find out who are the other Zoroastrians. So let's call all our associations with a suffix called and Friends. So and Friends of Zoroastrians. So that would give them a sense of oneness, and also that they are not even mentioned in the directory. It's like, if our name is on the internet, virtual, why you will not even be acceptable to put them in the directory of our Zoroastrian directories of different associations? This is my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Badshaw, for your update. We have a comment from Mr. Zal Kasinath. If Mr. Kasinath would like to unmute himself so that you can have the dialogue. It says, can someone explain, do we have a Zoroastrian flag? I think in my opinion, if I could take that opportunity before the other speakers, we are the Zoroastrian flag around the world. The way we carry ourselves is the Zoroastrian flag. The way we interact with people is the flag. And of course, we have all our great books, which teach us. For me, we carry that flag in our hearts. If any of the other speakers would like to comment, please raise your hand or just unmute yourself, please. Katie and Fred Mirza, many thanks to the organizers and the excellent motivational speakers. Likewise, Mr. Behram Shah, Mr. Saurabh Shroff. There are lots of gratitude messages. There's a question from Nazneen. Was Zarathushtra Sahib a vegetarian? Would any of our speakers like to address that? Nope. So I will answer that for you. We have no evidence for, and this I'm referring to Mabad Sahib Zarir Bhandara from the January session. We have no direct evidence for promotion of vegetarianism in the Gathas. Please refer to the Bahumata session of January for Mabad Sahib's own pristine vision. And as far as I know from studying, we do not know anything about Zarathushtra Sahib's own personal dietary choices. And as I have also said in some other sessions, we don't know what was there, because lack of proof is not proof of lack, as we say in science. And we've lost such a vast amount of the Gathas that to say something is not in the Gathas is, for me, a very difficult statement, because a lot of our texts have been lost due to destruction. Yazdi Tatra has put the Parsi directory in response to the comment we just heard. Thank you very much, Yazdi. If nobody else has anything else to say, may we please ask our respected Mabad Sahib Dastoor to end with a short prayer if he deems it fit.
Yathaho Vario Ataratush Ashau to cheat Achau Wangeosh Tisdamaningo, Shoitananam, Gyoshmasdai, Shatrim Chai, Aurai, I am Dregobyo, Dratvastarem, Yata Uverio, Ataratush, the show the cheat a chow, Wangeosh Tisdamaningo, Shoitananam, Gyoshmasdai, Shatrim Chai, Haurai, I am Dregobyo, Taratvastarem, Hashembou Vishtem Asti, Ushta Asti, Ushta Amai, Yatashai, Vishtai Yashem.
Thank you very much, Mobit Sahib Zubin. Normally we would finish with the prayer, but I've just seen a message from Mobit Zarir Bhandara. Mobit Sahib, of course, you may address the audience. Our audience and this whole platform belongs to our respected Mobit Sahibs and Ervad Sahibs, dedicated to you all. Please go ahead. Are you still here?
Thank you, Karishma, for asking me to speak. Yes, the last question that you were addressing, I believe it was from Nazneen about vegetarianism and gathas. From the whole theology of gathas, we can see it's full of compassion. We also see from Zarathustra's life that he was feeding animals, and unfortunately, we started making animals our food. Also from Shahnameh, it is very clear that non-vegetarianism started by the personified devil mentioned in Shahnameh by the name of Iblis. Also, the very revered Dastoor of Iran of Sasanian times, Dastoor Aderbad Marisman, the sayings of Aderbad Marisman, if I remember it correct, 13, 14, 15, and 16, the advice that he's giving to his son, in which says that even if you have a spoonful of flesh of camel, cow, kine, and cattle, which was killed by somebody else miles away, you are as much a sinner as that person. So there are a lot of prayers which talks about taking care of our animals and treating them as equal, and taking care of our environment. Our Zoroastrian theology is all engulfed in taking care of our environment. And today, in today's world, the way animal farming is done, it creates more pollution than all the other industries put together. So that was my comment. And thank you. I believe Nazneen asked that question. Thank you, Nazneen, for asking that question.
Thank you very much, Ervad Sahib. We will now end with a little thought to invite all of you to our next time's session, and a gratitude to all our speakers, our people who helped the program work. Yezdi will say, show it in full slide mode, and I must listen to Yezdi because he is right. So thank you very much to our core team, tech team, advisors, and facilitators who are mentioned on the slide, our young youth fellowship ambassadors who are our promise for tomorrow and who share Asho Zarathustra's messages around the world, Ervad Unwala, Ervad Kotwal, Bhandara, Karbhari, Tina's Karbhari, Benaz Nanavati, Mazreen Katrak, and Leah Contractor, as well as all the more senior people whose photographs you can see. Our next session is on the 4th of July, Sunday, at the same time as today. We invite you all and your friends around the world to this program. Gratitude to our respected speakers today, their families, and their generations who have made them so able and so compassionate to serve, putting themselves at the end of the list and everyone else first. Thank you to Asho Zarathushtra side. Yes, please.